everyone, depending on your time zone. Welcome to Sisel's Doctor's Clinic. Your host tonight, from Denver, Colorado, Daniel D.W. Whited. Dr. Kurt Fisnick is in the house. D.W., take it away, my friend.
I tell you what, I'm glad I'm your friend, Sir Rob. You're awesome, brother. And we just welcome everybody to the Doctor's Clinic call. And this is basically where we got Dr. Kurt Fisnick with us this evening, and the entire world is his waiting room. That's in yours as well, just so you know. We got a fantastic topic. We're going to jump into it. Dr. Kurt, before we get started, you want to tell them what our topic is?
Well, DW, I'll tell you how I decided. I came home last night. I was in Montana for 10 days, and I came back, and my son and I drove all the way. We drove the almost 15 hours to get home last night, and I didn't sleep very well. And I thought, wow, what a great topic. So that's what we're talking about tonight.
I love it. You know, a lot of times, Doc and I, when we do these calls, we do things that we've gone through and things that some of our friends and family have gone through, and business partners as well. Well, sleep is important. I mean, you know, it's one of the things that, matter of fact, it is very difficult to even get to lose weight if you're not getting the right amount of sleep. And we'll get in a lot of these topics tonight, but sleep is important. And so I will guarantee you one thing: this call will not put you to sleep. However, Dr. Kurt Fisnick, take it away, buddy. Let's just jump in there and see if we can help some people.
Well, DW, you just said something that I really find interesting. You know, you said sleep is important. You're talking about it. Did you know that if you're deprived of sleep, they actually show that's worse on your body than being deprived of food?
You know, I didn't know it was worse. However, I've not really been that deprived of food's a problem, Doc, so I probably wouldn't have known that. So I'm just saying.
That's right. And what happens to us a lot of times is that we get deprived of sleep, and guess what we do?
Talk to me. What do we do, brother?
So we start eating, right? And right? And when you start eating and you're craving food, do you reach for the carrot, the stick of carrot, or do you grab healthy food? What do most people grab when they don't get enough sleep, when they get stressed out from not enough sleep?
Chippies, cookies, milk. I'm just saying. Most people don't realize carrots are a food.
Yeah, and they grab all those junk foods and all of that, and guess what? Over a period of time, it actually makes the problem worse. It makes the problem worse because those foods have lots and lots of chemicals, and they have low nutritional values. And in reality, you know, when you have these food testers, when you have these companies that are designing food, you know, they're designing the food to make it so you eat more. So they really want to have you so you're stressed out, because then you're going to eat more, and then when you eat more, you're not going to sleep as good. And it's just kind of a vicious cycle that goes around and around and around and around. And so when we talk about sleep, it really leads to what we're talking about with Sisel, because we have some great nutritional products. And DW, at the end, you know, when I get done kind of talking about this stuff, you know, I know that you know the ins and outs in every product, and so, you know, that's the stuff that hopefully you can cover that pretty good with everybody, right?
I'm on it, Doc. We'll do it together, but I'm on it. I'm excited about it.
Well, we've all heard of cortisol, right?
Yes, sir.
And cortisol, it's a hormone that's produced by the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are a little gland that's found just above the kidney, and cortisol regulates a lot of body functions. It activates the thyroid. It can cause bone resorption, which really, I mean, for people, what that means is it makes it so that the bones become more brittle, and cortisol can make it so you have less muscle strength. And cortisol can decrease your energy. It has a negative effect on the body's ability to fight infections and cancers, and it's seen to lower the resistance to autoimmune disorders, and it increases the intensity of allergic reactions. So you can see why you really want to have your cortisol levels under control, and it's produced in a cyclic fashion. If anybody's ever had their cortisol levels tested, I've had mine tested, and what you do is you send in various test tubes taken during different parts of the day. Like when I had mine tested, I send in a test tube of saliva at around 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. That's when the cortisol levels naturally are at their highest, because cortisol is going to make it so that you're more alert. And then it drops, and then there's another peak around 11, and then it drops, and then there's another peak around 3, and then it drops again, and then it peaks around 7, and then there's a little peak around 7 at night, and a couple of various little peaks at night. But really, if your cortisol levels get messed up, what it's going to do is going to make you so you're awake at night and you're sleepy during the day. So those are some things that I throw out there. And then we're going to talk about melatonin a little bit too, because melatonin actually, you want to have the increased melatonin levels at night, and you want to have decreased melatonin levels during the daytime. And so these two hormones really work together and really important, so we need to talk about that. But, back a while back, we talked about the glycemic index, and we've heard a number of different things, relating to glycemic index. And when we brought out the Sisel Fire and Ice Tea, we talked about glycemic index a lot. And so the glycemic index of a meal will affect the cortisol levels. So it's really important that you wanna eat small meals during the day. You want to have really 5 low glycemic meals, and it's going to help keep the cortisol levels more under control. And it affects the circulatory system, and really they've found that it can trigger some coronary artery disease too. But when we look at all this stuff, it's really important that you get good sleep, because when you don't have good sleep, what happens is that you start seeing some real critical functions of the body start to drop. Your energy, which of course, and we all know that, you get a bad night's sleep. I didn't sleep very good last night, so I've kind of been dragging tail all day today. But also your immune system. If you're a person that doesn't sleep very good, you're going to tend to get more sick. You're going to tend to catch more flus and colds and things like that. But they've also found that people that don't sleep good, they tend to bruise more easily. They tend to have more osteoporosis. They have low sex drive. They have infertility, migraine headaches, adult acne. There's some bloating, even blood pressure problems. Various people, it can cause high blood pressure in some and low blood pressure in others. And so, these are some things that I bring up, and when we take a look at it, cortisol levels go up when stress levels go up, and DW and I have talked about stress quite a bit on this call. I bet we've talked about it no less than a dozen times. It's been kind of the main topic is stress, and when you look at the 7 most common symptoms of stress, sleep disturbances are actually in the top 5. And I was looking at some numbers today, and it was quite interesting. 30% of Americans, 30%, 3 out of every 10 people, are actually at the point where they're going to the doctor, and they're trying to find out what's wrong with me. Why can't I sleep? And but when you take a look at the numbers, how many people, when they survey people, how many people actually have problems? It's almost 85%, right? So almost 9 out of every 10 people have a problem with sleep. I mean, that's a lot of people, and so we all could use a lot of help, and so that's another reason I thought this was a great topic to talk about. Sleep is really important for homeostasis, keeping things balanced out. If you don't have enough sleep, you're going to have inflammation, and again, DW and I have talked about that a lot on the doctor's clinic calls, that inflammation is one of the major components of probably every single chronic disease that there is. So really, in reality, when we talk about sleep disturbances, we're really talking about almost every single health condition that you have. Sleep can probably be one of the symptoms, and so we start looking at that and what can we do about it? What can we do to improve it? And some of the things that I just looked at and I just kind of jotted down is that number one, make sure that you go to bed on time, and I'm going to talk about a little bit more in detail, but make sure that you're sleeping in a dark room. Any kind of light. They're now showing studies at the medical college where my son is going to school down in New Orleans, down at Tulane University. They actually found that certain kinds of light, and really any light, will affect your sleep and increase your risk of certain kinds of health problems. But make sure that you eat in the morning and have a low glycemic breakfast, because otherwise what will happen is that it'll kind of prime the pump during the day, and it'll make it so you crave higher glycemic foods. So some of you that maybe crave certain foods during the day, it might be because of what you had for breakfast. If you're eating any kind of grains, make sure that you're eating sprouted grains, because what happens is that the sprouted grains actually help break it down. It helps to make it so your body can digest it better, and it'll help it so you can handle the gluten that's in there. And again, that's a topic that DW and I have hammered on this call is, avoiding gluten and the GMO type of foods. And some of the other things is just, avoiding the excess sugars, the excess starches. Keep your stress levels under control. I can go back, and we can go back probably to some of the first calls that the DW and I did last year on stress, and go to the SiselDoctorsClinic.com website, and Rob's indexed them there, and go look at that, and you'll find that the stress levels are so important with it. But, DW, some of the things that I looked at is that, vitamin D3 levels are so important. Vitamin D3 levels, if a person bumps up their vitamin D3 levels, they found that almost 100% of people started having better sleep. They found that if you have real tart, kind of sour type of juices, that it improves the melatonin levels. And taurine, which I know that you talk about that a lot with one of our products. It's found that it helps with sleeping, and then magnesium levels. They found in research now that if you improve your levels of magnesium, it improves your sleep by 60%. And they found that when they study just people, they go on the street and they study people, they found that over half of us have decreased or deficiencies in magnesium in our body. And what was interesting when I was reading that, I thought, well, I'm going to go see, what's the diet been like in America? Why are we having such magnesium deficiencies? Has it always been that way? And it's interesting, in the last 100 years, our diets used to provide 500 milligrams of magnesium, where today the average person only consumes 175 milligrams in their diet. So it's another reason that we need to supplement. And Sisel not only has magnesium, but we've got one of the most bioavailable magnesiums, one of the ones that goes right to work in the brain and helps out with brain function. B vitamins, they help with improved brain function. And I throw this in there because there's a certain group of people now that they've been studying, and they find that they metabolize B vitamins, especially folic acid. They find that they metabolize them not quite as well, and they're called poor methylators. And so you have to start looking for certain kinds of methylated forms of B vitamins, and there's ingredients in green tea and mushrooms that boost serotonin levels, and this is going to help to make you sleep better. But poor sleep has been linked to obesity. It's been linked to diabetes. It's been linked to high blood pressure. It's been linked to depression. a 2012 study that was published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that like, DW and I started to call out with, is that the more tired you are, the more apt you are to eat. And the more you eat, the more weight gain that you have. And again, you're not going to crave healthy foods. You're going to crave the foods that are going to cause you to be more stressed out. It's interesting. This morning, I was reading a medical journal article from the school where my son goes to school down in New Orleans, and it was talking about sleep. And they were talking about how if your sleep's disrupted, it's actually gonna make it so you're more prone for certain kinds of cancer. And I thought, well, what kind of cancer would that be? And one of the major cancers that they found related to sleep disturbances is actually breast cancer. I mean, holy cow, your sleep is related to breast cancer, and in men it's related to prostate cancer. And so I wanted to read what's this study that they're talking about, and it related in talking about melatonin. And so they were saying, that I'm trying to think how to really relate it to what we do, but here we are. We're in the network marketing industry. We're in an industry that we rely heavily on our computers and we rely heavily on our cell phones. And so what this study talked about is that the screen, the backlighting in a cell phone in a laptop computer kind of gives off a certain wavelength of light, more of a blue light. And what they found is that blue light shuts off the body's ability to produce melatonin. And when you have decreased melatonin, what's going to happen is that you're going to have not only sleep disturbances, but what's going to happen is you're going to have increased risks of certain kind of cancer. And when you do have cancer, it's going to make it so your cancer isn't going to respond as well to nutrition. And so for those of us that are working or we know someone that has a serious health disorder, we know somebody that suffers from cancer and they're whether they're using chemo or they're not using chemo, whether they're using nutrition or they're not using nutrition. I mean, I can't tell people what they need to take because, I'm not their doctor, but all I can say is that the studies from Tulane now show that if a person doesn't have adequate levels of melatonin, what they're going to find is that their body's not going to respond to the treatment that they're doing. So they may not respond, whether it's chemo or whether it's nutrition. And so if you're working with somebody like that, what you want to try and tell them to do is shut their computers and their cell phones off at least an hour before they go to bed. And I know, like for myself, DW, and I'm sure you're the same way, we've got businesses all around the world. I'm working with people in Europe. I'm working with people in the western part of the country. I'm working with people in Hawaii. I'm working with people down in Australia, and they're on a different time zone. So a lot of times, what'll happen is I leave my laptop or my computer sitting on my nightstand. Middle of the night, I'm jumping up and I'm jumping on that thing. And usually the last thing that I do before I go to sleep is I check my emails one last time. I check different things one last time before I go to bed. And now I'm reading a study from Tulane, and I'm going, holy cow! I'm increasing my risk of cancer by a tremendous amount. And I know it doesn't have anything to do with nutrition, but it certainly has a lot to do with our business. And for all of you that are listening to the call and all of you that are listening to the recording, I mean, wow, I like working with all of you. So, I'm going to point out all these little things that I find, because that's what's going to make it 10 years from now. We're all still going to be in this industry together. We're still going to be working together, and we're not going to be one of those that succumb to to not surviving. And so I think it's really important that we look at those things. But DW, that was just really, and I know I talked kind of fast. I went over a lot of things. And I didn't cover it a lot in detail. if anybody wants if they have any questions from me on what I just covered, send me an email. It's docfizz@me.com, 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 and just shoot me an email, and I'll get you over some of the paperwork that I have and some of the research that I save on my computer so I can back up what I'm saying. But DW, I'm going to throw it back to you, and let's see if we can figure if we can pound out this thing on what people need to do.
Well, there's a lot to go through. I'll try to go as quick as I can, but at the same time be somewhat comprehensive. There's a few things you can do when it comes to evaluating what's going on sleep-wise. And so one of the basic things is take some calcium K2 before you go to bed, and just kind of hammer that in an hour and a half before you crash. Another thing that helps with the inflammation in the body, and here again, there's a lot of training we've done on inflammation, but inflammation is one of the things that it's a sleep disruptor, and it compromises your sleep when you got inflammation. Well, Flacoidin will take that out. And you can start off with, half an ounce or 3/4 of an ounce or a quarter of an ounce as you go into it, and just, see how little of it you need in order to get a good night's sleep. Obviously, if you did a lot of work that day and your bones and joints are sore and you feel stressed out, then you may want to do a little extra Flacoidin. Another thing that's going to help in a couple different areas, you want your heart working well. So I've read so many times that having a 8 to 10 ounce glass of water before you go to sleep. A lot of people are really, really worried about this because they think, if I drink the water before I go to sleep, I'm going to have to get up and go to the bathroom, and it's really actually not the case. But about a good 8 ounces of water before you go to sleep kind of puts a lot of water, will settle down and settles around the heart, and it puts you in a situation where you have less heart complications. Well, then you add the hydrogen water on top of that. Now you're putting oxygen in your body, so that is going to help you get better sleep. Just having a big glass of diatomic hydrogen water before you go to bed. Then you throw that on there to you think about the heart and the rhythm of the heart and all that's going on there. You think about the joints being lubricated properly and the whole 9 yards. Our Omega Plus is the bomb diddly bomb. I'm telling you, it is a game changer when it comes to sleep. Early in the evening, you might want to consider having a nice little evening glass of green tea. It kind of soothes the body and helps the digestive tract as well. Another thing, Doc's talking about those that are bread eaters and got to eat bread. If you're going to eat bread, and I've even done some research in what's good for your blood. And there's only really one bread that's been recommended that's really good for the blood. It's called the Ezekiel bread. And that's exactly what Doc's talking about there when he's talking about a sprouted grain, and it is a game changer kind of bread, and you can find it now pretty easily. Balanced D. He's talking about getting the Balanced D. Don't be afraid to take a 10-minute walk every day and get out in the sun, even if you think there's clouds out there. Some of that still penetrates through. Then you can take our Balanced D product. There's a lot of times if I have something that's just a little heavy on my stomach or whatever during the day or in the evening or likewise. But before I go to bed, I will throw, Miss Helen does all this, but she'll throw, about 7 Balanced D's at me, and I'll drink that with a good 10 to 16 ounces of water earlier on. So that kind of covers 2 different things. And then those of you that are having acid reflux problems and challenges there, you can take the Terminator and about a capful, maybe 2 capfuls, put it in the back of your throat and just let it drain down. And that'll start healing everything from your tonsils all the way, boom, down into your stomach, and that'll help. And also, when it comes to digestion and all that, you ever having challenged stomach problems, sleep on the left side helps the digestive tract circulate through quite well. Using your super detox before you go to bed, and making sure your eliminator is eliminating properly is huge, ginormous, huge. A lot of people are sitting there going to bed, and they have not even eliminated all day long, and they wonder why they can't sleep. Are you kidding me? It's because they're full of junk, and that's a nice way of saying it. And so, let's get the super detox going on. Those of you and you just want to take it after you've gone through the protocol of what it says on the super detox, then you take it as needed. Maybe Sunday night, Wednesday night, maybe every other night. Those kind of things might make a big difference there. And so now some of the things it's gonna help you with the stress. New Sisel Greens product is a big deal. It's got a lot of B12s and things in it that's going to help with stress. And so if you're stressed out during the day, slam a third or a half a bottle or a full bottle of Ultramax. Figure out a time that when you have a snack and do a Sisel Green on top of that snack. We may let Marianne may tell you something how my first Sisel Green shake was made with the touch of Marianne and Binyal's hands on it, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I had a late drive that night, about a 2.5, 3 hour drive back from Lancaster into State College, and that particular product was really, really well. Ultramax is huge. There's some people, depends on how your body reacts. A lot of people will do some brain vitality before they go to bed, maybe not a full dose or anything like that, but 1 or 2, and then you could pop another little bit the next morning to keep things going. One thing that's going to help you with your stress levels and help you with your sleep is if you're not worried about money. Most people spend most of their life worried about money, and I've never seen someone lose sleep over having too much. So, it just hasn't happened. Well, here in Sisel, we've got, as you help people, love on people, and encourage them, we've got ways to help you get more cash flow, to take care of that bill that's just eating your lunch, and to help out with that mortgage that might be stressing you out right now, to, put those braces on the kids' teeth and maybe pay for that checkup that you need because insurance isn't covering everything and the whole 9 yards there. So that's another big, huge, and these are all just little tips that's going to help you sleep better. And so those are some of the products that we like to jump on. A lot of times will even take, like during allergy season or something like that, I'll take an extra. I'll do a normal dose during the day, but I'll take an extra 1 pill of the Body Shield and then Influence. Those 2 products right there. If you got some kind of underlying mild infection going on in your body or whatever, that helps. During the day, slam some 4 Restore. That'll set you up for the nighttime. It'll set you up beautifully for the nighttime, meeting the needs of your body. And the product that we have, Avenger, is another one you want to wrap your brain around and see what's going on. If you're fighting off some challenges, if you've been out and been, tick bitten or anything like that, and you don't know what's going on, or you've been a stressful day in the sun, and you've been playing and doing things, and like Doc was on a 10-day run and gun fun with his youngins, and they'll wear you out. They'll wear you out like real fast, and so having that product there just to kind of rejuvenate the body and give it the extra stuff to build the immune system up. When your immune system is compromised, then your body searches everywhere and grabs everything it can to try to make up, and it'll pull stuff from the muscles, from the bones. It'll pull things from all over the body to try to make up for it. When you're sitting there with the Avenger, we used to call it Sisel Immune, you're sitting there with that product, and it could just meet some of those needs. So real quick, Doc, if this is okay with you, Marianne's on the call, and Marianne, if you'll unmute yourself, is there anything you want to add product-wise that would help people get a really good, solid night's worth of sleep?
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on the call, and I love this call. Doc, I love can you hear me, Dee?
Oh, I can hear you sound good, and Doc, we love you back, don't we, Doc?
You betcha, Marianne.
Well, I loved what both of you had to say, talking about the immune system and how when it's compromised, how that can affect your sleep. And I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. The calcium K2 is extremely important. I have a 73-year-old woman. Her husband has Parkinson's, so she has a lot of stress. She said, I will not do without my calcium K2. She said, I sleep such a deep sleep, but if my husband stands up, I wake up, and I'm there if he needs me, but I fall right back to sleep. She will not do without her calcium K2. But, Doc, you said something that really made me think, and that was about for people who have a lack of sleep, it can lead to breast cancer. Well, what I had to think about is lack of sleep affects the adrenals. The adrenals affects the pituitary gland, and all of that will affect our hormones. So not only is it affecting our stress, but also our hormone levels. There's one point that I wanted to bring out that I was thinking of when you guys were talking, and that is I'm very strung up on the eternity, the super omega, and feeding the energy cell in our body, the cellular energy. And there's one thing, you have to have energy to sleep. If you are too tired and your body is so overtired from whether it would be stress from losing a loved one or just something happening in your life, or if you have been around too many computers, cell phones, or even what they call the stray voltage, it can suck the energy out of your cells. And if your body is too tired, you won't be able to sleep. So one of the things that I have studied and have found that will help us, and here's simple things, is going out and going for a gentle walk in the evening and then maybe into a run, or if you have one of the little mini rebounders, what they call the little mini trampolines, or is just going on there and getting some exercise done, because what it does, it actually creates circulation in your body, which will help you to regenerate that cellular energy. The super omega and the eternity, sipping on those if you're dealing with a lot of those things. Loved what you had to say on that. But remember, guys, if we get too tired, and what will drain that energy out of our cells, if it's not stress and those things, it is, and I just read on this, where we have the TVs, the computers, the cell phones all in our bedroom, and that, what do you call it, Doc? The EFTs? What do you call it, Doc?
Yeah, the EMFs.
Yes. It's actually sucking. It's a negative energy, and it's sucking energy out of your body. So just like Doc said, let those downstairs, let those out of the bedroom. And when you go in there, make sure you have some fresh air, you have that quietness, and your body can get your total rest of sleep. Love this call. I love what you guys shared. Learn so much every time that I get on and listen to it. But hopefully that helps. Also want to suggest this one. Just share this testimony. There's a young mama. Her little boy was 1.5 years old, and he was just this restless sleeper. And he would just toss and turn at night, and the next morning he would stand up grumpy. And she called me. She goes, Marianne, what do you think it is? You know, some people said, well, maybe he has a parasite or something, or what do you think is wrong? I said, you know what, let's try the calcium. I said, let's start out with 2 of them. Smash them between the spoon, mix them with a little bit of yogurt or something, give them to him to eat. She actually dissolved it in a little bit of water and mixed it with something, juice or milk. She gave it to him, 2 of them that night. She gave him 2 for about 3 nights in a row, and then now she only does 1 at a time. But within the second night, the next morning he woke up chipper and happy, and she said she didn't hear him tossing that night. He didn't get awake. She said since then he has been sleeping a full night's sleep, even through TV. Wow. That he will not do without his calcium K2.
Love it, love it, love it, Marianne. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much.
Back to you guys. Yep.
We love you. Fantastic. One last thing we want to close with is this. We have and get with the person that invited you to this call, and they could help you as far as like the cash flow thing. But when you get your weight levels to where they need to be, and your body will tell you where that's at, and you get yourself healthy. It's really, really important. We have a lot of products that right now help people get healthy weight-wise, and they get there in a very healthy manner, not necessarily fast and not slow, just in a proper way. Because getting your weight down a little bit, so you're breathing better and you're going through those breathing system where your system is breathing properly, it really makes a difference. And then your organs, once you lose weight, your organs aren't all stuffed and jammed up, and they got a little freedom there a little bit, and it's going to help sleep. Doc, what a great job you did on the call tonight, my friend. It's just good working with you. Marianne, congratulations. You just did absolutely fantastic. Doc Kurt, any closing comments before we hop off here?
DW, I think between what I said with a little bit of the research and what you said with the products, and Marianne throwing in her knowledge there, if people don't find that they're sleeping better, it's the information is there. We certainly can help them. And just one last thing that I thought about was that they found that disrupted sleep is actually worse than short sleep. So, if you can get even a short night's sleep, it's better than having somebody waking you up all the time. So I'll throw that back at you too.
Well, I'll tell you, that's fantastic. And I did talk to someone the other day, one of the docs, and they were talking about sleep as well. And it's neat. They said get your room as dark as you can, get it as cool as you can, and make sure there's no lights going on. Like a lot of people will have, like I said, computers and stuff in the room, putting off that little blue light. You said, Doc, just get the lights out, get the junk out. Laura Bacini told Miss Helena a couple of years ago, just leave your cell phones out of your bedroom. You can pick them up or whatever. And so just good advice from a lot of people that really care. We love you. Thanks, everybody, for being part of the Doctor's Clinic tonight. Where the world is your waiting room, you can take this Doctor Clinic for them. You can send this call to your friends and family, and just share with the people you love. That's what I'm saying. If you don't love them, maybe don't share it. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there for a little fun. Love everybody. God bless. Thanks for being part of the call. Thank you, Marianne. Dr. Kurt, you're absolutely awesome. Appreciate everybody. We're out of here.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all.